Journey into the unknown, combining holistic perspectives with the supernatural and delving into the mysteries of life and death experiences with your host, Julia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 4th episode of Beyond the Veil, Exploring Holistic Realms. I am your host, Julia Evans. I want to do a shout out for everyone who stayed aboard and tried to listen to my show last week. There was a little bit of a technical issues, dare I say technical issues, or dare I say something beyond the veil. I'm going to say something beyond the veil. I was helping out a friend of mine, which is the show that's right before me. Now, I know he didn't perform or didn't have a show tonight, and there's some shows in January he cannot do. So, Burial Ghost, I hope he's having a good journey, whatever he's doing. But last week, he had to go over, and whatever needed to happen from his song of From Darkness into Light transitioned into my Yuletide blessings of when we were in our darkest time. I have yet to post the Yule YouTube video as well because of the Christmas that I just had and things that I've been dealing with, what I'm going to talk about on this show today. But just last week, it will be posted right after this show tonight, because I actually got the opportunity probably about an hour ago to hear it for the first time myself. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what happened last week. And last week was December 21st of 2023, which was Yule, also known as winter solstice. So that was the shortest day and longest night. So a lot of people have a lot of really hard times with this time of year when things are so dark. It's not just the Christmas holidays, but it's when everything is just looking into your shadow self, looking into that darkness, looking into things that we have been trying to veer away from for a long time. But it's also a celebration of life. It's a celebration of bringing forth your light, and that there is a balance, and that the light is starting to shine through. And as we look into those Christmas days for Christianity and whatnot, Christmas, December 25th, that's when Jesus was born. And Jesus is that representation of bringing that light to us. Now, for pagan and other ritual spirituality, what have you, is Yule is that very special time of year where we honor our ancestors and the feminine aspect of that, of the females that have also gifted us that light, since within the dark, which is that yin energy, is that dark and cold days, but that moon is out, and that moon is very significant, that mother moon, that grandmother moon, any feminine energy in your life that has gifted you light and love, anything like that. So that was kind of what we talked about last week. But kind of what happened was, as I was talking, and I was probably 20 minutes into the show, and as I have 3 computers going with my screen that I tape, my broadcasting, the Cosmos Astrium Radio Discord that people can comment to me, and my phone, because last week was the first week I was going to be taking phone calls. And I was looking at all my screens and everything was okay. And there was a lot of very paranormal activity even prior to the show, but then significant amount during, from things flying, which I talk about on my show that I'll post on YouTube later, of my Bridget's Cross, which is an Irish tradition of protection. And the airwaves were just going connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect. And it was just a really interesting visual for me. And as I was looking at trying to connect to my audience and the audience trying to connect to me, there actually grew this beauty between us. And there was something that I have no idea on this end, on my end. So on this side of my veil, I didn't know what you all were listening to, because music will just kick in if something happens and my airtime goes blank. So whatever music was there was the music that needed to be played from what I was talking to. So halfway through the show, I actually got to tap on or get back in, and I went into my show late. But it wasn't late. It was actually right on time to when it was supposed to, because I had significant things that I wanted to talk about. And normally I don't write out things that I want to talk about. But this time, for whatever reason, I thought I had to plan something. And as we all know, when you plan something, it doesn't always work. And so that's what brings up your anxiety. That brings up these moments of fear and these moments of it's not perfect. Nothing in this life is perfect, and let's just make that perfectly clear. That's kind of a stupid joke. But nothing in this life is perfect, and it's that imperfections and things that aren't perfect at all, which actually creates the beauty and that perfect moment, which I did get to see the video, and looking back at what I talked about, the struggles of this time of year within that darkness, not of just Yule, but the darkness, that emotional darkness and that mental darkness that comes into our light at this time of year. And some people who have lost people, some people have lost jobs, some people, like, there's so much going on in this world right now, and a lot of us are hiding behind this fake persona, or we create our own veils. And I talk about that on my first show, is we create things that we don't want people to see our true form, or we don't want to look out and see how scary the world is. So we create these blocks and we create this reality in our world. But as each show that I do, and actually each lecture that I do, any lecture that I've ever done, any presentation, I kind of go on the fly, and I actually read the energy of either the people that are listening, just the flow and the frequency of what needs to be said, and I kind of tap into that. But right before this show, I just wanted to listen to last week's show, and there were some things in there that I talked about, not just Yule, but I talked about reaching out to people. If you're not feeling very good, I talked a lot about that, and I kind of want to bring this into focus, because there's so much that I can talk about, there's so much that I want to talk about, and I'm just going to take a quick breath, because I'm dealing with my own set of darkness right now, which a lot of people do experience this time of year. And as this is the hardest month for most people, I actually want to draw attention to this, because one of my probably biggest fears, or biggest, something that I never thought would ever happen, kind of happened over Christmas. Now, at Christmas time, when people, I find it's very commercialized right now, and there's a lot of hardships in society with, like, financially, it's just, ever since COVID, there's been this disconnect with love and belonging, connecting with friends, family. There's this scarcity of not having enough anything, love, support, finances. There's a lot to kind of breathe in, and there's a lot of people kind of hiding within the shadows because they don't want to be seen, and there's not a lot of help out there. So with that said, as the Yule came through and the days are starting to get a little lighter, and that Christmas time comes, and yes, it can be very joyous for many, but can be a very hard time for others. I actually had one of my best friends had a loss, and her son actually took his own life on Christmas Eve. So a lot of us who are opening presents and celebrating the birth of Christ and bringing in our biggest light from a time far beyond than any of us can remember, but we know of the stories. He took his life, and he was found Christmas morning. It's very devastating, and we're sending a lot of love to her and her family and all the friends. But I wanted to bring this up because today I spent a lot of time. This was my first downtime, and that's why I didn't put up that video, was because I got bombarded with Christmas, and I got bombarded with the fact that I had to clean my house and I had to shift that energy of my house. And that's the things that I do when I get ready for this holiday season. And as I had a lot of family here and introducing more family into my life and back and forth, and I got worn out. I am going to fully admit that. I got completely worn out because of my infusion the week before, and I physically almost couldn't handle it, but I pushed through, and I kind of created my own veil so people couldn't see it. I put like this invisibility cloak, I guess you could say, of that I can just push through, because that was something I learned at the ripe age of 3 after my mother died, that when you're struggling or you're having physical pain, mental, emotional, and spiritual, any kind of pain like that, you actually hide yourself and make sure everybody knows that you are just tickety-boo. Actually, that's what my dad used to say. Just tell everybody you're tickety-boo. I don't know if that's Irish or what the heck that is, but tickety-boo, whatever that means, just make sure everybody can see that you are doing just fine. And that is the word of the day. Man, I sound like Sesame Street for all you people who used to watch Sesame Street. Word of the day is fine. Fine also means save me. And not that I need to be saved. I'm not saying that. But as I watched the video, and I'm going to kind of veer away from this momentarily, but as I watched the video, and after reading things about going through a loss for friends and family of suicide, it said that there often a lot of family and friends will have suicidal thoughts after, and it hurts their heart because it's so much disappointment in themselves, disappointment in the person. There's so many emotions that you're angry at yourself, at them, at the world, and you don't know where to put those emotions. And so when I watched that video, I had this instant, at the end of it, guilt. And I had guilt that, what if I put that video out, and what if he saw it? And these are those moments in life that I really want to tap into, that behind the veil, which this show is about. We can't control what somebody else's path is. And I want that to make that very crystal clear, that whatever somebody's path is, that is theirs to live. I'm not saying this person deserved or anything like that to live that kind of life, but for whatever reason, that was the ending of his path. Perhaps he will rebirth or reincarnate into something else to learn a life lesson that his soul needs, or whatever you believe. But he, I don't know if he's in a better place or a worse place, but speaking from experience, when I crossed over, there is a moment of dark that is blacker than black. It's blank consciousness of letting go of all the things that weighed you down. And there's a peace to that. There's a peace to that darkness that gives you satisfaction, happiness, and that brings forth light, which is, I know a few people have come up to me after I've done some lectures and presentations about, thank you for talking about the dark side of crossing over, because a lot of people talk about that beautiful light and that it's angelic and tranquil, and you can say all these words in the dictionary, whatever words you want to create for that light, but that there's so much love within that light. That's what creates the light, is that love. And I have a question here. Do any of them stay earthbound after suicide? That's a really good question, Chantel. Thank you. So I'm just going to repeat that. So I am taking questions, and you can call in tonight, actually, if anybody wants to call. If you have any questions about either life, death, crossing over, anything like that, you can call local at 306-400-4303 or toll free 1-877-229-5171, option 2. Now back to that question. So I had a question on Discord here. Do any of them stay earthbound after suicide? Well, I'm just going to tap into that because each soul is a little different. Different religions think otherwise. There's some religions that actually will not bury the body. Some religions will actually put glass on the tomb. There's a lot of very strong beliefs around suicide, that you can't cross over, that you won't go to heaven. But that's kind of your own belief of what you've been taught here on this earth plane, that you are living in this world. But to answer your question point blank, yes, Chantel, some of them do stay earthbound. The reason why is their purpose isn't done. And so I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the word purgatory. So purgatory is staying within, basically it's staying within that veil, staying in between the two realms. A lot of messages, paranormal activity, not to be afraid of it, because they can be angels, and they can be not, right? I'm going to say that because there's both sides of that. But that's how people come through. There will be messages, and I think there'll be a lot of messages from this young lad. I know messages to me, not from this lad, but from a girlfriend of mine who committed suicide a few years ago, and actually wear on my wrist, and I wear a poem upon my wrist. It's called The Dash by Linda Els, and the poem represents, I'm not going to read the poem, but it's about, instead of looking at the day you're born and the day you die, you look at that dash in between. And that's what's important. It doesn't matter how long, how small, how wide. It's just that dash, and that means life. That means however many days you spend on this earth and this plane. That's what's important. I remember her brother had read that at her funeral, and I know she still walks this earth, because she still has a message. And I'm just kind of looking down at my bracelet that I hold of her as well. But she's been popping in ever since I found out the news of this suicide, and actually even before that, she's been popping in for the last, probably a good week and a half now, almost 2 weeks, of a message that she's been trying to get through, not just to me, but of the nursing community. My friend actually was very much bullied in the nursing society, and a few people knew, not many, and she had gone through counseling and was trying to get help through that, and she ended up taking her own life, and she shot herself. And actually it's her death is really significant, well, obviously because she was my best friend, but her birth date was actually the day that I died, actually crossed over on May 10th. My crossover was May 10th, 2018, which her birthday was May 10th. And the day that I had crossed over, and that's within my book. So if anybody is just tapping into this show or a first time listener, thank you for joining. Thank you to everyone else who is joining in for another time to spend with me. Thank you. I appreciate that. Blessed be. But within my book, I'm a best-selling author of The Lily Nurse, Rebooted, Rebirth, and Finding a New Path. But within that, I do talk about her. I kind of lost my train of thought, but I was actually messaging. I talk in my book about messaging a friend on her birth date, and I was posting on the Facebook account of her, the memory of her, actually, and another good girlfriend of mine. Anyways, side note, when I was dying, I actually felt Amanda's death, how she had committed suicide, because she sticks with me a lot and she is very earthbound. This is kind of a long drawn out explanation, but yes, she is very earthbound, but I did feel every ounce of pain that woman had felt. And it was almost like I could feel the back of my head being shot off. And right after that, I coded. And so for those who don't have a medical background, coding is a medical emergency, all hands on deck. But I died on the table, and I was in pulseless VTAC, so my pulse, there was no pulse, and my heart was vibrating. It wasn't beating, it was just kind of vibrating at a level that wouldn't even register. And so I was compressions and defibrillated not once, but twice. But the first time was darkness. I'm going to just kind of talk a little bit about Amanda and this show, because I'm been rambling a little bit here, I think, because I'm already 20 minutes in. So anybody who's just viewing or hearing this show for the first time, Beyond the Veil is about this world and the opposite side, so that spiritual realm. It's also creating veils and blocks in between our reality here on this earth. But I do talk a lot about living and the dead, paranormal activity, the seen, the unseen, the knowing, the unknowing, all of that. And if anybody has any questions on that, don't hesitate to call and ask about any of that. So this week, just because of the circumstances, this was not where I was going to go with it this week, but I'm just going with the flow of this like I normally do. So this week I'm going to tap into some things that I went through after my code, actually after I died and came back. And so it's things that I don't really talk about. It was very traumatic what I experienced, dying in the center of my unit in front of 30 of my colleagues, screaming and crying and cutting my clothes off, and in front of my patients. It was horrific, to say the least, and I ended up getting PTSD from it, so post-traumatic stress disorder from it, which was undiagnosed. It was only diagnosed just a few, like probably this summer or something, that, oh, maybe you have that. Yeah. No, S-H-I-T, I can spell it, right, Matt? Cannot swear before 10 o'clock. Okay. So, but there was an awakening that I had as well. So as I was tapping into these two worlds of what is life, what is death, I'm not afraid of death, but am I afraid of life? And I had to go through that situation of what is living? I know what death is, but what is living? What do you remember about the other side? My mom still has my book. Oh, okay. So I have a question. What do you remember about the other side? Okay, I'll talk about that first. So I knew that I was going to cross over, and I didn't know I was going to die, but it was this peacefulness that I had. And I had looked at my girlfriend who was holding my hand. I looked at her dead in the eyes, and I read basically her soul, if she could handle me crossing over. And I said, make sure that my children and my husband, he was my husband at the time, are okay. Call Marie, which is a mutual friend of ours, because she actually had my living will. And she said, okay. And I looked the other way and I watched the machine go. That's when she said I turned from blue to white to gray as death. That's when they cut off my clothes and did compression. So that's what was happening here on this earth. But what was happening on the other side was dark. I first went through a place blacker than any black. And in my book, I talk about, are my eyes even open or are they closed completely shut? It was a nothingness and a darkness, as if nothing mattered. I didn't have anything. I talk about it as the void, blank consciousness. You're somewhere else, and this is where you get your sixth sense from. It's a knowing, but you don't have a body. You know it's like an energy, and it's like you still kind of have segments of your brain, but it's like you have no brain. And my experience was at first very fearful, and then I had this calming, and then I wanted to cry, and it actually brought me back to the moment where I had my worst pain than I've ever experienced in my life, and that was losing my mother when I was 3 years old in 1983. And I couldn't cry because it's not that I had eyes, but it felt like my heart was weeping. It was my heart that hurt. And looking back now, they're working on my heart on this side of the veil, on this plane. They are pumping me and they're doing compression. So I probably was feeling that, because that was the only thing I could feel was my actual heart. And it was like my heart was crying. And once I allowed my heart to cry, that's when I heard my mother's voice. And she said, "It's okay, honey, mommy's here." And once I heard that, it was zap, and 150 joules through my body, and I was brought back to this world, but not completely back. I was actually hovering over my body. And once my body was hovering, I could watch everybody, and I was screaming and crying internally because I couldn't move. I watched them work on me. And even though it was nothing, and it was black, and I didn't have things, I didn't have memories, it was just nothing. Like, nothing isn't even the word. Blacker than black. It was just a void. I wanted to go back to that, then experience the chaos that I was about to endure. And then I heard the words, "We lost her again." And so when they lost me again, that's when I got brought to the light. It was like I was cascaded to this moment of peace, and I was gifted love within my heart, and love, this self-love. And as I accepted this gift, it was like all the people that have ever passed before me was there. And yes, Amanda was there. I did see her. Even though she walks this earth, her spirit still carries on. And then from there, I got zapped back. But when I got zapped back, I went through the tunnel, and it was like halogen lights of conscious memory started coming back very, very slowly. And as they started coming back, and my old memories and my old body and my old mind came back, my world had changed. But then it also brought in the knowing and the sixth sense of being very clairvoyant and seeing people's light and seeing everything like that. So I do talk about that more. I could probably talk hours on that if you have any more questions on that. So I have another question here. Do people stay in the dark for the rest of eternity? That's another really good question. A lot of people do believe that. People believe in heaven and people believe in hell. People believe in what they're taught, what beliefs, what religion that they're drawn to. I'm not here to veer you in any direction, because I'm not going to change anybody's path. But yes, what I believe is, yes, you probably could stay, because it's your soul that chooses that reality. Not all, how do I put this? Because I don't want to change anybody's full view here. I don't know if they stay there for all of eternity, because that's a good question, because that wasn't my reality. I think you can stay there for a very long time. very, very, very long time, and then your soul can pop out. I believe there's a lot of energies and a lot of spirits, a lot of souls that were stuck in that very that darkness, as people think of it as like hell, which I'm not saying the darkness that I experienced was hell, but there's a piece to that. It's a stillness, that you don't need things, and people do want to stay in that. People live in that in an everyday world here. To tell you the truth, I see that on a daily of people, of my loved ones, of people I work with, of clients, and they stay in that like mundane, just putting the blinders on their eyes, that they just don't want to see their reality, and they do stay in that dark for their eternity. I have a few more questions here. I have a few screens going on. Not hearing my mom's voice for 40 years. Okay, Sean, I'm going to read your message off my phone. After not hearing your mom's voice for 40 years, that must have been the most incredible sound, hearing her speaking to you. Yes, it was. It was a very beautiful moment, but my mom comes to me more ways than one. I've talked about it on a few shows that she actually comes to me in butterfly form, so I know she's always around me, from pictures falling, ever since I started this show, from my very first show. She's really talking to me, but yes, to hear her voice, it was pretty magical. I used to talk to her. I mean, my aunt still tells me stories. My godmother tells me stories of when I used to rock in my tiny little wooden rocking chair, of how many times and how many hours I would spend just rocking back and forth and talking to my mom. But as you get older, you start creating a veil for yourself, and you start creating this this hardship that you don't want to live in that reality, because it's very hard to live in that reality and communicate with somebody like that and not having them physically there with you. And so perhaps my conscious brain created a butterfly because I could feel it, or I could see it with me. But yes, Sean, hearing her voice in that, I still dream of those moments. A lot of times, for years, every time I would fall asleep, I could still hear her voice. It's okay, honey, mommy's here. And coming back to that, and Allison, I'll get to your comment here too. Coming back to that, I haven't really told anybody except for a few of my closest friends. So I guess you guys are my closest friends as well. So thank you for being here with me. The chapter I wrote, from darkness to light, was probably one of the last chapters I wrote. And so within my book, how I created it was, it's like almost like a tennis match, and it's my conscious brain. It's like back and forth from like the reality I'm living right now to my past, and going back and forth, and something's happened. It's not until about chapter 17 when you find out, like, oh, she had a near-death experience. She actually dies. Spoiler alert, I survived. I came back. Okay, that's a terrible joke, but I did. I survived. But when I wrote that chapter, I had actually wrote that when I was probably 22. And I have the paper, and it's on this water-marked paper, this very special paper. And I would love to like someday get it scanned so I can actually read the water print that's in it, because I've never I don't remember ever in my life seeing this paper. But I know it's my writing, because it's the style of writing that I used to do. And it's a segment of what I had already written in my book. It was like, so I would have been 22. So 18 years after the fact. And I found it in my son's room with my nursing papers. And it had been with one of my creative writing classes. And it was in a folder of butterflies, which was absolutely incredible. And I hold that in my office, and it's one of my very sacred gifts. So every time I read it, it's like I can hear my mother's voice. So I'm going to go back to a few comments here. Time does not exist, everybody. That's what I'm trying to say. I wrote this stuff, and I believe I probably did this channel when I was 3 years old. That's probably why I'm so good at it. Well, I'm not like tooting my own horn here, but I just go with the flow. Okay, Allison. Also, time is a human construct. Very true. Very, very true. Because we're all just trying to live a human experience. So I would assume on the other side, the veil of time is irrelevant. You're absolutely right, because time is, time. There is no time. We created time here on this earth, and so there is no veil. There's no veil of. I'm gonna go with what I experienced. There is a veil, because when I was hovering over my body, I could see people and the two worlds, but they couldn't see me. And so I don't know if that was their veil blocking it or me blocking it. I'm not sure. But yeah, you're right. That veil gets lifted. And I'm going to talk about the veil. You can actually get stuck within the veil. And I've actually done that. And I've said that a lot, where I feel like I'm stuck in the middle, where I've got one foot on this plane and one foot in the other, and I kind of teeter over a lot to the other plane to get messages from that spiritual realm, and then they like throw me back, like, no, get out of here, like, you can listen to us other ways, like tap into something else, because it's not that they don't want me here, but it's very peaceful and I really like going over there. But you can get stuck in the middle, and getting stuck in the two realities, because you can see them playing simultaneously at all times. Within everything, I can see the energy of all of it. And whoever's listening to me online right now, I am videoing it, but I put my lights up today, so I've got green and blue lights behind me, and it almost looks like another reality behind me. But that's like how I see my world all the time. Okay, children are more open to the other side. That is completely a gift. It's true. And the reason why children are so open to the other side is because they haven't created that fear. They haven't learned it. That's a learned behavior. It's from what your family tells you, what other people have not just pushed on you, but what you've learned from society, how you're learning to fit in. Not all families learn like that. A lot of families are really open to that. A lot of families, it's okay that you can talk to the other side. It's okay that you're clairvoyant. It's okay that you want to hold crystals. It's okay that you see fairies or talk to the trees. And it's okay that Jesus is in your heart. It's okay that you wear crosses. All of it, right? Just hang on. I just have a call. Hello, you're speaking with Julia.
Hi, Julia. It's Sean.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, you're on the air.
Sean.
Oh, hi, Sean. You're on the air.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to ask a question, just kind of stepping a little bit back. When you were saying that you had kind of one foot on in one plane and another foot in another plane, so you're kind of in both places at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
How did that visually look?
Or
did you just kind of see like two places at once, or do they blur out, or are they super bright, or I don't know.
So when I'm standing kind of in the veil, both places, and I do that most of the time. I hope everybody can hear what Sean was asking. It's about, it's not just the visual, Sean. It's the frequency. It's like all of your senses change frequency. So your senses warp. So you can hear color. You can taste sight. It's just frequency and energy. And there is auras come through a lot brighter. You can see the people that you need to veer away from, and you can see the people that you want to be drawn closer to as well. But you can see a glimmer in absolutely every single thing. And I'm going to say thing because everything holds an energy from what a person has touched. So you could, like, I can look at, for sight, when I'm standing in both sides, it's like two worlds are happening simultaneously. So I'm just looking at a box right in front of me. So I'm doing it for you right now, but I can actually see not only just this black box with a loonie on top of it, and that's what holds my thumb drives, but I can actually see every person that has touched it and their energy. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay. And then that's how I kind of read. It's not like I read people's minds or anything like that, but I just read the energy and the trail and the path, because all of those connections were brought to me in some significant way. Just like for anybody, and I'm sure you have experienced why you latch on to something, but you don't really know why. Like, I'm sure there's an object in your house that you hold very dear to you.
There are a few things passed down through the generations, yeah.
Yeah. So you can even feel that. So it's not really just a visual, but that's the sense of knowing. And so that's when I stand in between the veil. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other questions that you have for me, Sean?
No, I just wanted to say congratulations on this radio show and on the book, and
thank you very much.
To more reading in the future. So
thank you very much.
And anybody out there that's listening right now that hasn't picked up Julia's book, they really should. Radio show's great, but the book is just one of those reads where you just can't put it down. You're just wanting to know what's going to happen next.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say.
Even though you kind of know what's happened to her, but you still want to know the details of how it kind of was all sorted out, so to speak.
Well, I really appreciate you for saying that. That's very kind of you. Thank you for the support, Sean. Thank you for calling in and for listening every week. I do appreciate that. I'm going to take some more comments here. Have a blessed evening, Sean, and continue listening.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, love. Okay. So, and anybody can call in. I'm just going to read a few comments. So Allison had said, Matt had a hard time sleeping from long time after his near-death experience. He felt like he was dying again when he was falling asleep. Oh, I got shivers when I read that. Oh, that almost made me cry. Give me a sec. Whew. Yep. 100%. 100%. 1,000 billion. Whoo-hoo. Every cell in my body just went, yes. Holy crap. Yep. The flashbacks are real. I didn't sleep for years. After my near-death experience, I could only fall asleep until I got to there's brain waves. There's, what is it? Beta, alpha, delta, gamma, I think it is. I think that's the order. I know alpha is the second. I could only ever get into the alpha state where I could calm my conscious brain and just get into my subconscious, because that's how I do my body talk sessions. But beyond that, I could not and would not, and I would wake myself up, because every time I closed my eyes, I could feel it. I could feel the defibrillation, and I could feel it going back. And my conscious brain got very nervous that I was going to stay, because I've gone through very, very many obstacles and a lot of hardships the last few years after my near-death experience. And when I came back, there was a lot of times I said, I chose hell. That I felt like this was hell, this earth realm. I felt like it was hell, and I had experienced heaven, and I chose this to live through it, to fulfill my purpose, whatever that purpose is. But I didn't want to fall asleep because I was so scared to go back, and I would relive it over and over. And actually, to go on that a little bit more, Allison, A few weeks ago, what was it, on October? Oh my gosh, my favorite month, December 15th. I had talked about my second show. And my second show, my head was kind of a little everywhere because I was getting this infusion. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of what Allison had just said about a hard time sleeping. I was actually talking about this last week when nobody could hear me. So perhaps I wasn't ready to fully say it. So maybe I changed all the frequencies within the computer, or maybe a higher power. Maybe it was my higher self that wasn't ready for me to acknowledge it. But when I went for my infusion, and so what it is, if you didn't hear my second show, is I have multiple sclerosis, and I was diagnosed October 27th of 2014. And I had been on different medications, and I took myself off medications after my near-death experience because, as you read in my book, I am going to do a spoiler alert, but after I did come back, I had 0 MS symptoms, and I didn't even have any lesions on my MRI. So when they scanned my brain and my spine, there was no lesions. So my neurologist couldn't believe it. And he's like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's like a computer where we unplugged you and plugged you back in. Maybe that's it. And I said, or I went to the other side and I learned how to heal myself. Let me tell you, Western medicine does not want to hear that at all. He said, perhaps, but I don't believe that. And I said, well, I don't really have any explanation. So let's just agree to disagree. With that said, because of my separation, and that's when my biggest veil had dropped, is the world that I had been living in for almost 19 years had dropped. And I thought I was living a world, and you will read that in my book, of this beautiful fairy tale of support and love. And that veil dropped, and there was a lot of things that I was hiding, and I didn't really want to tell people because I picked all the tiny little beautiful things of what was happening, but what I believed was my entire world. But I got so stressed out after my separation, and my MS came back. Okay, I'm going to digress. So back to the infusion. So this infusion, I started, this would have been my 7th infusion. And this infusion actually destroys me. It's a 8-hour infusion. And I first get Benadryl, Tylenol, and then some steroids through an intravenous. And the steroids is to help my immune system, whatever immune system I have left, to keep fighting. It's the only fight that I have for a while. And so what this drug does is as it infuses into my body, it's called Ocrevus. And it's every 6 months. It's $40,000 a year that we pay for this to slowly kill me. And its job is to destroy my B cells, which is my memory cells of my immune system. So the memory cells of my immunity. So the theory behind it is it will kill those and break that memory. So hopefully it doesn't have a memory of attacking my myelin sheath, which is the protective coating of my nervous system, which that is the byproduct of multiple sclerosis. That's what it is. So back to my infusion on the 15th, I go in and I had a really weird feeling this time. Almost like, not like when I died, but I knew something was going to change, and everything leading up to that. And I even talked about that on my show before, about the 5 and how I had to have like a day of solitude, and I ended up sleeping at a priest quarters and learning more about myself. And I knew something major was going to shift, and there was going to be a major change. And so when I walked in, the nurse had said to me, I've never met her before, that I know of. And I said, this is my story. Like, make sure you have extra saline bags because my heart rate bottoms out, like my blood pressure drops and all of that. She goes, yeah, I've heard of you before. And I just assumed, make an ass out of you and me. But I did assume that she just meant from the notes that the other nurses have written about my previous infusions. No, it wasn't. I couldn't fall asleep because that's kind of what Allison was saying about Matt having a hard time sleeping. Normally, I put myself in almost a trance to get through that. Because it's very painful. And I refused to fall asleep because it was like this dreaded fear. And I don't really fear things like I used to anymore. And I had this horrific fear. And my blood pressure kept bottoming out. And it was saline bag after saline bag. And she's like, I've never seen anybody go through it like this. And then I finally calmed my brain, and I was actually listening to the podcast, or episode 2, and I'd fallen really, really deep into sleep. And all of a sudden, because I was in such a deep sleep, there was a word or a phrase or something that I was talking about in episode 2, and I actually haven't gone back again to listen to it. And it made me wake up, and I started screaming. And the nurse came in, and my blood pressure went through the roof, and it just about exploded my heart. Just like May 10th, 2018, my heart rate and my blood pressure went through the roof. She stopped the infusion, and I was actually basically reliving in the same arm a drug going into my body that was killing me. And she pulled the tubing out or off me, completely stopped the infusion. I calmed down. She called an ambulance. She tried to get a physician on board. We eventually calmed my heart rate. I am an old stubborn nurse, and from the experiences that I've had in the hospital, I got nervous and I didn't want to go back to the hospital because I'm like, I don't want to die again today. But after I calmed down and we had a talk for 20 minutes, she divulged to me that she was there the day that I died, and not at the one hospital, but at the other. And she said, we heard it about you, and we heard what was happening to you. And she said, but I'm also the nurse that was with the 2 people that, because of the high dose of epinephrine that was pushed into my body, I was given 10 times the amount, and that's what actually killed me. It was a medical error, but 2 other people were given that dose and they died. And she said my name had come up as they were debriefing over these cases, and my name came up as the one that won't die. Like I'm known as the one, right? And I'm not saying it like I'm the one. No, but no one knows, and they've tried to do case studies on me of why I can't, with that amount of epinephrine, no one survived it. And I even was told that this summer when I had collapsed because they thought I was having a heart attack, but it was just the residual after effects from the copious amount of epinephrine. So the huge amount of epinephrine that was surged into my heart. And the physician had told me there was 2 other cases and they had died. He said, I don't know how you survived it. I don't know how you're still surviving. And that just goes to prove that you are supposed to be here. And so during my infusion, and this is actually what didn't get broadcast, and I don't even have the tape of it. I actually, when I fell asleep, and it was the deepest sleep I probably had fallen asleep in since my near-death experience, and I went right back to that place. Oh, it says that we're cutting in and out. Oh, this is interesting. Some of the people are saying it's cutting in and out. So perhaps that this story, there's more to this, and I'm going to explore this on my end as well. So I'm going to stop talking about that. Thank you for letting me know, Chantel. Anyways, I'm going to kind of veer away from that, just because this show's kind of coming to the end as well. So yes, I did survive that as well. But yes, Allison, that was kind of a long spiel. But yes, I had a very, very hard time sleeping. And even still, every once in a while, I do right now have somebody, I have a new partner who I love very dearly. And he, when we actually can sleep, because I feel very protected, that nothing will take me. It's like he got brought to me from the heavens, actually, because I feel very at peace with him. And yeah, that's just for me to know. Anyways, any other questions? I'm just going to open the phone up one more time. Don't forget about Luna. Oh, somebody mentioned about my cat. Yes, I have this beautiful cat, and she is my protector. I had a cat, Milo, who had passed away during the solar eclipse this year. And when I went to go pick up his ashes, Luna, which her first name was Joanne, and I say it like that because I don't know any other cat named Joanne. She had adopted me, and Luna has been one of the greatest gifts that a higher power has given me, because she chose me to be in our life, and she actually sleeps with us every night and allows me to sleep, and she actually pushes away paranormal activity, and it's almost like she allows this safety net for her mama to sleep. So yeah, thank you for the reminder, Chantel. That's a beautiful thing. I have 5 minutes left. She's darling. I have 5 minutes left if anybody wants to call in. I appreciate the phone call, Sean. That was very nice of you. I will be taking phone calls next week as well. And thank you, everyone, for all the comments. So as I'm closing up the show, what we talked about at the beginning of the show, if you have any thoughts that are darker than you can ever imagine, just reach out to somebody. There is people. I take thelilynurse@gmail.com. You can find me on any social platform. I've helped many of people in the middle of the night too. And that I do offer people, because I've been in situations where I've been in those darkest days, and they're hard. You feel very withdrawn, and you want help, but you don't want help, and you don't know where to go. I'm telling each and every one of you, there is light. And no matter what end you're on, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. There's light at the beginning of your day when you open up your eyes and breathe in a brand new morning. When the sun rises, every day is a new blessing and a new beginning. So I'm going to bid you all farewell and goodbye, but not goodbye forever. Remember, everything happens for a reason. I will be posting this video and last week's video, the half video that I did. I wish you all peace, happiness, and I bid you farewell, not forever, but just for the time being. Blessed be everyone. We're all here for a reason, and I'm very blessed that you all took the time to spend it with us and took the time for yourself, and believe in yourself of a whole new world out there. Peace and love, everyone. Take care. Have a good night.